We're leaving for an Easter trip in under a week and the car is not looking good. I probably actually should have started filming earlier, but I was just gonna check a couple things, but it's turned into a bigger job than I first thought. So I've actually been having this annoying knock that's coming from the front right-hand side. I haven't really been proactively chasing it because, yeah, I haven't used the car that much really. And now that I'm starting to use it again and the Easter trip coming up, I thought I'd better diagnose it. And then after the drive the other week with Sherry, we developed a couple more knocks in the front, which I knew what they were. So I've currently got the front right-hand shock out, and I'm just about to pull the front left one out. And the big annoying knock, I still don't really know what it is. I'm gonna pull down the shock and just see what I can find. But the little knocks that I've developed over the last couple drives are these things. So these are the little heam joints that are in each end of the shock. And this is the top one, which actually feels pretty tight. Like that's still good, this top one. But this bottom one on the diff end is super flogged out. Like a lot of movement in that. Like that should be, you know, I can barely move this one. It's still nice and firm. So that's what they're supposed to be like. But this one is definitely flogged out. So although I don't think this is the source of the original like knocking noise that I've got, this will be the source of the new noises that have just come up. Sherry had a similar problem with these. This was before we went to Ultimate last year and he put in new top and bottom heam joints all round. I'm gonna have to do that here. I'll probably put just 2 new ones in each shock and then the top ones that are still pretty good, I'll keep them as spares. And I also think it's time to give these things a service. So yeah, I was just gonna pull them out and check them heam joints. But just having a quick feel of the shock, I want to pull it down just to see what's going on inside it, to see if something is going on the inside. I also want to maybe change the shim stacks and then put some fresh oil in it and just do a full service. So that's why it's blown out into a bigger job. And then while it's apart like this on jack stands, the diff end radius arm bushes are flogged out. So I haven't changed these bushes since like 2017, but they are super flogged. You're not going to be able to see. You know, it's sort of hard to see. Oh, you can sort of see, but the whole steel inner sleeve is peeled out of it. You can see the radius arm's on a bit of a wild angle, but that's also because it's fully drooped. So either way, once I do these 4 heam joints in the shocks and then new radius arm bushes, that should hopefully solve all my knocking noises, because I've already put like a new panhard rod in it a while ago, and then I put 4 new rod ends on it as well. The steering box seems good, you know, no play, the steering column feels good. So yeah, this should sort my issues out. So this is the left one, and this bottom heam joint is probably worse, to be honest. So yeah, all 4 will need changing, and this one I'll just keep as a spare. I really need to do something with these adjusters. So this was the original shock with the original adjusters. It's like a grub screw with a lock nut. And then this is a new style one, and they've actually got clickers on them. I'm hoping that the bypass tubes are the same, and then I can just get some of these adjusters and fit them to these, and then I've got the same adjuster on both shocks, because they don't have the same amount of like adjustment. Like they're not exactly the same. You know, one turn on each shock isn't exactly the same, but it's been a bit of a saga so far. So anyway, hopefully we can get on top of that. So it's also very evident that when I push both of these, you know, when I compress them in on the ground, the right hand one is way softer than the left hand one. Even though they're adjusted close enough, it's still, you know, to have that much difference between them is just not, that's not in the adjusters. And something does feel a bit funny when I push this down. So the right hand one definitely got to come apart, and the fact that they feel different, I'm going to pull them both down and then just double check that both valvings are the same. But I still don't have a vise, so I've got to go get some oil, and I've already got some shims, so I've got to go out to mum and dad's, use the vise and get all this happening. So fast forward a couple of days, I got a bit excited and I've pulled them both down, and this is what I've found. So this left one, this has got the new style adjusters. This one was fine. The oil was still relatively clean. It definitely warranted changing it, but everything looked good in there. Everything's in good condition. The wear bands are all good. I got to go get something to measure these shims because I don't have anything right now. But everything looks good. O-rings, you know, that all looks fine. So pretty much for this shock, all I need to do is check the shim stacks, and then it can go back together with some fresh oil, which I have right there. But this right one is where the problems start. So this is the piston out of it, and they have like a bronze wear band around it, and it has been copping a flogging. So if you can see that, and it's even worn into the piston as well. So there's something going on with this one, and I'm not really sure. I've never seen anything like this. Of all the shocks I've pulled down, I've never seen a wear band with nowhere near this much wear on it. Obviously they're designed so the wear band runs up the inner of the shock, but for some reason it's just copped an absolute flogging. So when I pulled it out, the reason they felt different was actually because there was oil bypassing around this piston. So that's why it was super soft. So not all the oil was passing through the valving. And you could feel when I turned the bottom of the shock, you know, it was sort of grinding a bit. So anyway, I knew something bad had gone on. I didn't think, yeah, I'd see that much wear on the wear band. But when I pulled it out and tipped the oil out, it just like glitter, you know, it was like pasty glitter all through the oil, and it wasn't good. So I've done a full strip down. I've even pulled out the bypass adjusters, and you know, everything's out of it. I've given it a full clean. Hopefully you can just see remnants there. That was the last little clean, but it all looks nice and clean now. One thing I did do while it was this far apart is I pulled these adjusters out and see if they fit in here, and they do. So hopefully, you know, I can just chase up some new style adjusters, put them in here, and then I can just keep these in a box somewhere. I did also have oil on the wrong side of the, I've pulled that apart, but you know, this piston sits inside here, and it's got nitrogen on one side and oil on the other, and there was oil in the nitrogen side, and when I pulled this piston out, you know, it was just metal flakes all over this. So obviously this moving, you know, metal flakes have worked its way in there and given this O-ring a bit of a flogging. But the main thing is this piston and wear band, and there's an O-ring underneath this wear band. So I have been talking to the guys at Superior Engineering, and there is a couple pistons on their way, but that is going to be the main hold up. So, you know, I should be able to get everything else I need to do done, but this will be the hold up. So hopefully the postman delivers them real soon, because this is going to be the hold up. I actually don't know what I'm going to do if I can't get this back together in time, because yeah, time's running out. But when the new piston does go in, I'm just going to keep an eye on the internals here. So I haven't got any of the adjusters yet, but hopefully they're coming soon. So yeah, when this piston goes in, we've got this trip coming up. Hopefully the adjusters come soon, and I can pull the shock back down and do an inspection. But still strange nonetheless. Like, yeah, I've never seen a piston do that or whatever. So I've got to keep an eye on it. So while I'm waiting, I'll go out to mum and dad's and I'll press some new spherical bearings in there, not heme joints like I keep calling them. And then I'll go get a set of digital verniers so I can just measure these shims. I'll just take the radius arms out there and we'll press some new bushers in. And then I've got another really annoying job that I hate doing, but I'm pretty excited about. So we'll swing out there, do some more work, and then we'll be back here putting these back together. All right, so I'll start off with the easiest, hopefully the easiest job first. I'll push these new spherical bearings into the end of the shock. So these are a different style. They have like a Teflon seal, where the ones that were in it did not have that. These are, I think they're Italian Vico, part number there. So hopefully with these Teflon seals either side, they should last a little bit longer, because yeah, obviously the other ones, stuff just gets between the two surfaces and grinds it out, and that's why they end up so flogged out so quickly. So it's just a matter of finding some sizes there that I can use to press the bearings into, and we'll whack them in the press, push them in. Hopefully, should only be a 5-minute job. All right, can confirm, 5-minute job. Everything looks good. I'll put a bit of heat into the ends just so, yeah, this would slide in a bit easier, because if these are going to flog out pretty often, you know, I don't want to be wearing this out where I have to put a sleeve in there or something. So a bit of heat just so they go in easier. All right, we're stepping it up to the next job. Gets a bit more annoying, but with these fabricated arms, it's not too bad. So these are just race bred arms, hybrid arms. Obviously they've got the bush at the end. So I've got to put in 4 new radius arm bushes at the diff end. Both arms, they're super flogged out. It's not too bad with these fabricated arms because you've got a bit of flat surface around here to put a cup on there to push the bushes out. But I know on the standard arms, especially this end, like at radiuses off, and it's real hard to get something to sit on there square as you push it off. So these are the bushes that I'm running. They're actually genuine Toyota bushes, but they do fit just fine. You should all know where I got them from by now. Roadrunner Off-Road. They have all that stuff in stock ready to go. So that was quick and easy to organise that. There's no massive reason for the Toyota bushes. Some people think they last a bit longer. I tend to sort of agree with that, but this would be a good test. So these bushes have been in these arms since I've had them, which is like 2017. I think I put them in my white car. So they've lasted 5 or 6 years. Fair enough, I don't do a massive amount of driving, but they have lasted. So yeah, these bushes should last a fair while. But either way, the genuine Nissan bushes or the genuine Toyota bushes, they both work. I wouldn't recommend anything other than genuine bushes. That's just me, and there's a lot of other people that say the same thing. So if you are doing bushes, not even radius arms, any bushes under the car, it's genuine or nothing for me personally, and I know most other people say the same. So I'll quickly punch these out, swap them out, and then we've got to get on to the worst job. All right, so you can see they are pretty flogged out. The ones on the passenger side were actually worse, but yeah, these are still, they're done and dusted. So I'll give this a quick emery paper or a bit of Scotch-Brite, clean it up, and then we'll push the new bushes in. And then I've got to do the other arm as well, obviously, but you don't need to see two. Nice fresh bushes in there, so should be driving mint. All right, now that them 2 little jobs are out of the way, we've got the one big job that I've got to do. If you're quick right in the intro, you would have seen in the background, but this is what we've got going on. I was sort of on the fence about doing this. Yeah, I wasn't really going to do it, but in the end I just thought I'll just get it done. So this is what we're doing. New tyres. And doing the bead locks is never a fun job, but I will say on these alloy rims, because there's no nut, like if you have a steel rim, they're nut and bolted, but because these are just straight bolts, you can just zing around with the rattle gun and it's not as painful, but it's still not an enjoyable job. So as you can see, I bought the same tyres. They are a 315 75 16 Maxxis Razor, and surely you can figure out where I bought them from. Roadrunner Off-Road. So they do Maxxis tyres and a couple other tyres, so if you are chasing them, make sure you hit them up. They always actually have a real good price on these. Well, most of their tyres are actually, you know, on the pointy end of the price, which is good. I run 16s because I like these rims. I've had these rims for like 3 years now, I think. I bought them like just pre-COVID, so they've been going strong. I've had these tyres on the whole time, so not have one drama with these. A lot of people ask about these because they're like a no-name rim. I'm pretty sure I paid $300 a rim delivered to my door when these were new. But because they don't have a brand name and it does say on the back made in China, people are always skeptical about it. So yeah, I do get a lot of questions about these and I see a lot online. But the reality is that all the big rims are Pro Comps, Walker Evans, you know,
Allied, all that sort of stuff, they're all made in China. So yeah, just because they don't have a brand name, it doesn't make them like bad quality. There's a lot of people running these because of the price. Like, I know they've gone up a little bit now, but when they first come out, you could buy a set of these, like I did, $300 a rim delivered. They're like pretty much cheaper than buying a steel rim, buying a beadlock kit, welding it on and piss farting around like that. And these, yeah, they've been bulletproof. And the pit bulls on like the 37s on the other rims that I usually run on my wagon when I bolt the 37s on, they are also from the same guy or same factory, I suppose. They're just like a no-name rim made in China. They're like a race line rip-off. They're like the D-shaped one, but they're the only ones you can get in 17. So I personally didn't like photos of them rims, but when I seen them in person, they grew on me, so they do look better in person. But these are pretty much my most favourite looking rim. If you could buy these in a 17, I would buy them in a 17. But another good reason that I run the 16s is because tyres are actually cheaper. So if you compare a 315 75 16 to a 35 12.5 17, usually the 17-inch rim tyres are like, you know, anywhere from $60 to $120 dearer a tyre. And people always bang on that, oh, the 315s are actually smaller. Well, on the Maxxis website, they're actually listed as 2 millimeters smaller overall. And I've got a 35, 17 right here, and I'll show you. So here's one of my brother's walkers. So these are 35 12.5 17. And then mine as well on the 16s. So they're both pumped up, seated as they should be. And if you have a look, all right, so I'll just set it up a bit better. So I've just plumbed this tyre up and put a prop there. So you can see here, I've just flattened that out with an angle gauge, and there's an 8mm nut on this side. So you can see that the 315 is 8mm bigger than this. Now, obviously this is a bit worn down, so you can see the little lip there. So I measured the difference in tread depth, and there's 5 millimeters of tread depth between them. So if you added 5 millimeters of tread onto this to bring it back to brand new, this would make the overall diameter 10 millimeters bigger, which would make it overall 2 millimeters bigger than the 315. So the website measurements are actually pretty accurate. Now the overall width, so I measured from sidewall to sidewall, and the 35 12.5 17 is 15 millimeters wider. So you can see that it looks obviously narrower because this is worn down, but there's 15 millimeters difference in it. But also keep in mind that I'm pretty sure these are 9s, these rims, and these are only 8s. So the little bit wider rim will puff the sidewall out a little bit. I just had a quick look, they're actually 8.5. So yeah, half an inch wider. So that will obviously pump the sidewall out a little bit, but these are obviously wider, but 15 millimeters is really not much to worry about. So for those couple of reasons, that's why I'm just happy to run the 16s. They're not really any smaller, nothing that's worth arguing about, like 2 millimeters is nothing. Enough of me talking crap, we have some beadlock bolts to do. Well, I've done 2, so let's do one together. So first we pull the valve out. We'll let that go down. We then pop the bead off. There are heaps of ways to break the back bead. Yeah, we've got an old tyre machine floating around in there. The bead breaker still works. But I've seen people use like high lift jacks or even scissor jacks, and you put it under your car and you put the scissor jack on the bead and you can pop it off, or you can drive over the edge of the tyre against the rim. Sometimes that pops it off. So there's a few different ways, but yeah, that's the easiest. We then carefully go around with the little ugga-dugga gun and undo all the bolts. Taking extra care when you get to the last one. We then pop this ring off, like so, and I just tip out all the bolts. This one requires 2 hands. Flip it up, like so. Get the trusty tyre lever in here. Peel it back. Try and get it to pop out. Then we give it a hit. There's 2 of these suckers. They would have changed hundreds of sets of tyres, these things. Been doing it like that for years. The tyre machine did work for a little bit, but yeah, it hasn't worked for years now, so we're reverting back to them. We then give all the mating surfaces a nice spray and clean. Get rid of any debris. That includes the outer ring as well. So we then set the tyre up. So as far as I'm aware, these dots go to the outside. So whenever you see these dots, and I'm pretty sure it's this red dot you line up with the valve. So when we throw the rim in, I've got to flip this tyre, and then when I flip it back before I bolt it down, we'll line the valve up with that. All right, let's see if we can do this magic trick. So it is important to make sure the tyre is the right way. So just with one good throw, it's now in, and we flip it over, and we line this red dot up with the valve. And then pretty much we just get the ring, sit it on, and we need to make sure that the tyre goes behind this lip on the whole way around. So these razors have a bit of a fatter bead, so they're a little bit more tricky, but still the same. Now we make sure we never seize the bolts, because you don't want them seizing in there because they're inserts into the alloy. You know, if it's seized in there, it might pull the insert out, or you don't know, you don't want to be wrecking anything in the alloy rim. So pretty much I've got 4 bolts set up in a cross pattern, and you want to just stand on the ring, and you can sort of work the tyre around with your feet, and then reach down and screw these in. That will hold the ring initially. So once you got these 4 bolts in, just finger tight, like, you know, you stand on it and just snip them up. Then we never seize all the bolts and just sit them in there. So once they're all in, I've just started them by hand. They all go in nice and smoothly. So then I grab this. So be very careful using one of these. If you don't know the rattle gun, just do it by hand. But I'll go around about 3 times to pull it down until it's nearly bottomed out. So you can feel, you know, the ring hard on the rim there. So yeah, about 3 times and you can get it close enough. And then once we've gone around 3 times to pull it down, we get this thing or a torque wrench, but I just like to do them by feel. The torque settings are pretty low. They're like, I don't know, they're under 30 foot-pounds, I think. But check with your rim because every rim's different, but do not over tighten these bolts because that's when they snap. So you can feel when you're doing it up, you can feel when the ring bottoms out. You know, it goes tight, and then that's, you know, I'll go around probably 2 or 3 times doing this and just make sure they're all tight, and then that's job done. So now that they're all tight and done up, I think I actually went around 4 times. We throw the valve in, we nip that up. We then throw some air in it. Hot tip, if you're using like a tyre inflator, they're a bit more restrictive than just a straight hose with a clip on it. So this is what I use to put it on because you need maximum air. We then watch the bead go on. It's about to pop on now. There we go. And there we go, 3 done. I've just got the 1 more to do, so I'll smash that out. In regards to balancing, I don't think I've balanced a set of my 4-wheel drive tyres for like over 10 years. I don't really see a need to it. As long as you're using quality tyres with a good rim and they're fitted correctly, I've never actually had a need to balance them. That also goes for make sure the bushes are good, you know, the rod ends are good, all that sort of stuff. That all adds up. But yeah, we'll see how these go. So these should drive mint. The last ones drove mint. Even the 37s, they drive fine, never been balanced. I don't like to run balancing beads. I know people do. I tried them years ago on some Cymexes and they ended up being worse than better. Like they made the tyre worse. And then when I went to air down, like I had beads get stuck in the valve and then, you know, it's just all sorts of dramas and the tyre goes flat. You have to get the ball out. And I've actually seen them clump together as well. So like inevitably when you let them down and pump it up, moisture ends up on the inside. That's just how it works. And then, yeah, I've just seen them clump together and then they're useless. So if you want my advice, no balancing beads. Yeah, worst case is just go and get them balanced properly. But from what I've seen anyway, if you get the weights knocked onto the back bead, they end up flying off anyway. So you can get the stick-on ones, but I've also seen them fly off as well. So that's why I just don't even bother anymore. All right, well that's all the jobs ticked off that I need to do here. The tyres are looking pretty sexy. I gotta whiz back home and fit all this up because I'm running out of time real fast. All right, well I'm making a bit of progress. So I've just put the back wheels on. I've put the radius arms in. I've just got to do them up when the car is at its static level. So yeah, make sure whenever you're doing control arms or radius arms, any sort of bushings, sit the car under its own weight and then tighten them up so then you don't get any unnecessary twisting in the bush when it's sitting as it should. So I've also pulled these, like this was just a temporary bump stop spacing in the front. It doesn't look too pretty. So all this was when I put the front shocks in, I used these to space the bumps, and obviously I did it in 2 parts. So I had these made up ages ago. They've been sitting in the shed and I thought now's a good opportunity to slide them in, but I just need some longer bolts because they don't go through enough to screw in. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm just going to go through this shim stack, and then this shock's right to go back together. I bought a digital vernier, but once I work out the shim stack, it actually won't take long to put back together, and then I might even throw it back in the car. I think I can do that, and then hopefully the piston for the right hand side one comes tomorrow. Otherwise I'm going to be in all sorts of dramas, and then that won't take long to put back together and put in the car. So I'll get stuck into putting this together. So this is all I'm doing. Clamp it to the bench. I've filled it up with oil, not all the way, but I just want to let that sit and, you know, try and get all the air bubbles out of it before I put it all back together. So we'll work on the shim stack. This is oil I put in it. It's like for motorbike forks, but surely it's got to be good stuff, 5 weight. So we'll see how that goes. I could have used like auto fluid, Dex 3, auto trans fluid, but anyway, we'll see how this stuff goes. But we'll get onto these shim stacks. So I'm not going to change too much, but I'll see what I can add and then we'll put it all back together. It's funny how time consuming this stuff is, but again, I'm no expert at valving or anything. I'm just sort of working it all out myself. I've done this a few times. So I've already sorted out the compression stack, which is on the bottom, and I've got the rebound stack here to measure up, and then I've got my data there. So pretty much I just want to firm up like the middle and the smaller end of the stack for hard hits, but for the most part like it's pretty plush driving. But there is a lot of adjustment with the bypass tubes, so I do have them wound pretty tight. They're sort of like 2/3 to 3/4 wound tight, so I'm aiming to sort of back them off back to about the middle. And also I've got to double check that the other shock is exactly the same. So that's mainly the idea what's going on. Get both stacks exactly the same if they're not, and just firm them up a little bit. It is quite fun working this stuff out though. I do enjoy sitting here and working this out. And I've just measured these shims in the other shock. This is the original one, and they're completely different. And I can't even match it up to the other shock that I've just done because I don't have the shims that I need to match it up. So I'm just not even going to do anything to this shock. I'm just going to put it back together the way it was, and then hopefully the adjusters come in, and then when the adjusters come in I'll buy some more shims, and then I'll valve it, you know, put the adjusters in and whatever all in one go. And that's pretty much the whole reason I haven't really done anything with these yet. Like I've pretty much set and forget because I just had this feeling that the valving was wrong between the two. And then also with the different adjusters, I don't really want to play with it and set it all up just to change the adjusters and whatever. Like it's just too much stuffing around to have 2 different shocks. So it's certainly something I can feel in the front, but I'll rectify that pretty soon. But I'll slap this one back together and then at least that job's done. Well, it's all back together and looking good. It feels nice on the ground.
I've only just put air in it just to seat everything, but I'll put some nitrogen in it before I put it in the car. But yeah, I'll check in hopefully after work one night with this piston. We'll put this together, finish the car off, and then we're good to go. Well, my parts did come, so thanks for Superior for getting them out super quick. This is the damaged piston, and then I did actually get 2 pistons, so that's the other one. They are ever so slightly different, but that's all right, because they did also tell me today that the adjusters came in. So I've got the new style adjusters, which will get sent down pretty soon, and also some shim stacks to match the other shock. So straight after Easter, what I'm going to do is pull this shock back out, put the adjusters in it, and valve it the same as the other one. That will also give me a chance to inspect the wear band and see what's going on the inside, because the inside of the shock body does have some grooves. And then I'll pull that shock back out and I'll change the piston to the one I just got sent. So then they both got the same piston, same valving, same adjusters. So then we're on the right track. So we're all gassed up, got me fancy little nitrogen gas kit. So we're rolling with 200 PSI. I think the max is 250, I think it says on their website. So we'll just roll with 200 for now. I'm going to just adjust the bypass tubes by feel and try and match them up, and then I'll throw them in. Well, it seems that it took way too long. I've only really got like 2 nights left before we go, but it's back under its own steam. The shocks are in, everything looks good. Fresh tyres are on, you know, fresh radius arm bushes, so you know, hopefully you should drive Mickey Mouse. So it's going to be a busy next couple of nights. I've got to pack, and then I've still got to go over the car like a pre-trip check. So bolt check, waters, oils, you know, whatever else goes with that. Well, I hope you enjoyed that one. Make sure you stay tuned for the upcoming Easter trip videos, because they're going to be good. Super keen for the trip. I'm looking forward to doing another week-long trip. I think it's 8 or 9 days actually. And then I'm keen to get back in this car and see how all these new mods go on a long trip. So keep an eye out, and until then, we'll see you on the next one.